In the second part of this series, we talked about modular or component-based CSS. The idea of modular CSS is to break down a page into a bunch of reusable components and then compose those components together to build a complex layout. So here's the page we're going to build. I want you to pause this video for a few seconds and write down the components that you see on this page. So think about it. When you're ready, come back, continue watching. Okay, here's my answer. On the top, we have a navigation bar. So we're going to build this navigation bar in isolation, as if this is the only component that exists in the world. Down below, we have what we call a banner or a hero component. So a hero component contains elements like a heading, some text, a button, and an image. Now, this button itself is another component that we're going to build in isolation. And as you will see in a second, we will have variations of this button. Now, further down in this section, we have an input field with a button inside it. This is a particular kind of component, so we're going to build this in isolation as well. Then we have what we call a badge. And as you can see, we have multiple instances of the badge component. So this is our main badge component, but we also have variations that can have a different background color. Now look at this list. There are many places on this page or perhaps on other pages where we want to show a list of items horizontally. So we can call this component an inline list. An inline list doesn't have bullet points and all the items are inline. Another example of an inline list is the menus in our navigation bar. Okay, so let's keep going. Then we have the cart component. In this component, we have elements like this title here, the price, billing cycle. Then we have a badge component. So a component can contain other components or elements. These elements like the price or billing cycle are internal in this component. They don't make sense outside of this component, okay? Now in this cart component, we also have a list with the style. So we have a list with green ticks. And as you can see, this list is repeated in multiple places. Then we have another kind of button here. That's the light version of our buttons. Let's keep going. Over here, we have this icon in this particular shape. Now, this might not be immediately visible as a component, but if you look at the icons folder in the zip file that I gave you earlier, you will see that all our SVG files contain a black icon. But this icon that we have here is slightly different. It has a blue color and is placed on a round background. Now, further down, you can see other instances of this icon component. We can call this icon round, okay? Now, look at this link. We have many links with this particular style. So this is another component we're going to build in isolation. Now, there is another component here that is not immediately visible, and that is a grid component. So look at this layout. We have two columns on the left. We have an image, then we have some other elements here. There are many places on this page where we need a two-column grid. Here's one example. There's another example up here. Again, we can put these elements inside a two-column grid. In the first column, we have these elements. In the second column, we have this image. Now, when we make the page smaller and view it on mobile, our two-column grid turns into a one-column grid. So we can build this grid component in isolation and reuse it in multiple places. Now, over here, we have a three-column grid. So we have two kinds of grids on this page, okay? Let's keep going. Then we get to the control panel section. Now, once again, we have a two-column grid. In the first column, we have this image. Then we have these items. Now, each of these items is what we call a media object or a media component. So a media component contains an image or an icon on the left side. And on the right side, it contains a heading and some text. This is the same pattern that you see on a lot of websites. Think of Facebook, Twitter, any kind of social networking application. They always have this pattern. This is officially called a media object or a media component. So we can build this component in isolation and then repeat it in multiple places. So to build this entire control panel section, we're going to build these media components and then put them inside a two-column grid, okay? Now, what component do we have here? Well, we can assume that all our quotes should have this particular style. So the text should be slightly larger. It should be italic and in this color. Down below, we have this line and the name of the author, followed by the name of the company. So we can encapsulate all these elements inside a quote component. Then we can combine that quote with an image, put it inside a card. This is the same card component that you saw further up. So we can combine this together and call this combination a testimonial. With this, all our testimonials will have the same look and feel. Now, further down, we have what we can call a callout component. A callout component is to encourage people to take action. So here we have this beautiful background color and another variation of our button component. Now, finally, in the footer, we have a bunch of lists. These lists don't have bullet points, so we can create a list component that doesn't have any bullet points. Then we'll have a variation of this list, which we call inline list, for displaying items horizontally. So to build this page, first we're going to build all these individual building blocks or components. When all these components are ready and they look great on mobile, tablet, and desktop screens, then we'll compose them together to build this page. Once we have this library of components, we can combine them to build other pages as well.